The following program is a production of The Bob and John Show. Any similarity between person and places is strictly a coincidence. The producers of this program are solely responsible for its content.
It's now time for the Sudsy Wudsy Show, brought to you by Sudsy Wudsy. Sudsy Wudsy. It's an all-purpose cleaner. It's a car wash. It's a bubble bath. Yes, it's Sudsy Wudsy. Sudsy Wudsy now proudly presents The Adventures of Jimmy Ballpoint, Private Investigator. Ear, eyes, and nose. The complete package. Jimmy Ballpoint.
This is where I work, the city. It used to be a nice place with nice people. But like everything else, they left. And now the city is a dark and gritty city with dark and gritty sidewalks, with dark and gritty taxis. Downright depressing if it wasn't for the gum stuck under the tables at the automat. I'm Jimmy Ballpoint, private investigator. Ear, eye, and nose, the complete package. My office is up 3 flights of stairs, straight up, right above a flop house. A little office with a desk, chair, sink, and a couch. Like I said, a dark and gritty place. But it's just right for a guy like me.
Yes, it's Sudsy Wudsy. Sudsy Wudsy now proudly presents The Adventures of Jimmy Ballpoint, Private Investigator. Ear, eyes, and nose. The complete package. Jimmy Ballpoint.
This is where I work, the city. It used to be a nice place with nice people. But like everything else, they left. And now the city is a dark and gritty city with dark and gritty sidewalks, with dark and gritty taxis. Downright depressing if it wasn't for the gum stuck under the tables at the automat. I'm Jimmy Ballpoint, private investigator. Ear, eye, and nose, the complete package. My office is up 3 flights of stairs, straight up, right above a flop house. A little office with a desk, chair, sink, and a couch. Like I said, a dark and gritty place. But it's just right for a guy like me. The case that I'm working on now is the case of Fred, the Rhode Island Red. I wrapped the case up early for a change. Made a few skins on that one. I sat back in my swivel chair and was about to call it a day when a shadow crossed the frosted glass of my office door. The shadow came up to the frosted glass, and the figure took a better form. A short figure, not very impressive, but then again, as long as the money was good. A knock on my office door was faint, and I said, "Come in." In walked a shabby little mug, hat in hand and nervous looking. The man approached my desk and started to ramble on in French. All I could make out was that he had a chicken farm on the outskirts of town, and that his sister was in trouble. I tried to interrupt, but Frenchie kept on flapping his gums. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. I assumed that something was bothering him about his sister. So I asked if this is about his sister. The man stood still, looked rather agitated, and told me, "I think that's what I've been talking about all along." I asked if he suspected any foul play. The man said his name was Pierre, and his suspicions were about Fred. Strange. The mug has a sister by the name of Rhode. Pierre shook his head again, looking agitated. These Frenchy types are touchy. I asked why the talk about a mug called Fred. He said Fred was insanely jealous of anyone who even looked at his sister. His cold stares were like ice, and he was petrified of Fred. I held up my hands as much as to say, okay, settle down. I'll look into it. I asked Pierre, what does this mug, Fred, look like? Pierre said Fred was about 2 feet tall, a large yellow beak, a red comb on the top of his head, with red and amber feathers. Fred is a Rhode Island red rooster. What? Little man opened his billfold and counted out several bills and left them on my desk. He left my office, leaving my office door open. I got up from behind my desk, walked over to my office door, and closed it. As I made my way back to my desk, I thought to myself, I didn't know there was a chicken farm anywhere around here. I couldn't help but think to myself, well, a French mug comes into my office, says his sister is in fear for her life from a rooster named Fred on a chicken farm just outside of town. In my office? Why, the thought never crossed my mind. I made my way down to Angel's Bar. If I was going to get any answers to start this case, Angel's Bar would be a good start. I walked by a folded billboard sign on the sidewalk outside Angel's Bar that said, "Live Entertainment." Angel is getting up in this world. I walked into Angel's Bar, covered a stool, and motioned to Angel for a shot of amber glow. As Angel poured, I asked if he had any information about a chicken farm nearby. Angel shook his head no and walked away. Wrinkles was sitting 2 stools down from me, and I asked him. He held up his arm, his hand holding a drumstick with this look. Does it look anything like this? The sliding doors to the phone booth next to me opened, and out stepped Snitch. He overheard my conversation with Wrinkles. He asked if I heard about the one of the chicken and the rabbi in a canoe going over a waterfall. What? Snitch leans over to me and says, the rabbi says to himself, I'm the only one that can hold a paddle. Just my pluck. Yeah, okay. Out of a back room, Knuckles, the piano player, walks out and strolls over to a piano. He lifts the wooden cover over the ivory keys.
sits down on the piano bench and rests his fingers on the white and black keys. Everyone in the joint sits back and all eyes are on Knuckles. Wrinkles gives Knuckles a nod of approval, then looks over in my direction for some kind of response. I hesitate for a moment, then give Wrinkles my honest opinion. I love it. I walked around and decided that I was going nowhere fast with these mugs. I headed for the front door as Knuckles settled into his second set. I left Angel's Bar and waited at a taxi stand right next to Two Finger Tommy's shoe shine. A taxi pulled up and I opened the back door and was about to get in when I froze. There behind the wheel was Hardy the tenor. Hardy is a member of the local barbershop quartet club. I asked Hardy if he knew of any chicken farms just outside of town. Hardy started off his answer with 2 beats to the chord in a 3/4 time and didn't clam up until we were about a mile outside the city limits. Now, I like a good tune like everybody else, but Hardy is a real now with this stuff. We stopped outside a place that looked like a farm of some sort. Hardy pointed to the front gate, and I handed him a sawbuck. He thanked me as he drove off. The smug was singing, "My Girl Lucy Stuck in the Mud." One of my favorites. As I walked up a dirt pathway to the farmhouse, I noticed a figure sitting on an old iron glider. The farmhouse had a wraparound porch, lots of flowers, and a few rocking chairs, and this iron glider. As I got closer, there she was, Pierre's sister. She was a small gal, braided hair, covering both shoulders, wearing a red and white checkered dress. She held a wooden spoon that moved around inside a bowl on her lap. I removed my Manhattan and introduced myself. She just smiled and kept on stirring. I stepped up to the porch, pointing to a rocking chair, and asked if it was okay if I sat, and asked her some questions. She just nodded yes and kept stirring the wooden spoon. It was difficult to maintain eye contact with the dame as she glided back and forth. I settled into the wicker chair and did my best to match her movements. As I made conversation with the dame, I'd lose my momentum with the rocking thing. Trying to talk to this dame was like talking to the windows of a moving subway. I finally convinced myself there's no doubt in my mind. This dame belongs on a chicken farm. I motioned to the farmhouse and asked if her brother was home. She nodded yes and kept on stirring the wooden spoon. As I went to get up, I got the feeling that I was being watched. I slowly turned around, and there, on the porch railing, was Fred, the Rhode Island Red, staring me in the face. His head turned sideways as he glared at me, first with the left eye, then his right. The bird jumps from the railing and lands on the iron glider next to the dame, stirring a wooden spoon in an empty bowl. I hear a fluttering of some kind, and there I am, surrounded by roosters, all Rhode Island Reds. There had to be 100 of them. I got up and slowly made my way through the crowd of birds. I didn't want to seem threatening, so I made some friendly gestures along my way to the front door. "Say there, how you doing? Hey, nice haircut. Seen any good movies? Hey, say hello to the missus for me." I made it inside, found Frenchie slouched in an overstuffed chair, nursing a case of red wine. The mug was blitzed. Oh, great. This is just peachy. I got a dame outside gliding back and forth, stirring an empty bowl, a gang of roosters ready to pack me under a chicken coop, and Frenchie here with enough alcohol in him to burn like a smudge pot for a week. Hey, wait a minute. Wait just a minute. I'm on a chicken farm, but no chickens, just roosters. Where are all the chickens? I went into the kitchen and looked out the back window. No chicken coops, not a one. Now why would a chicken farm have only roosters and no chickens? I noticed a phone on the wall, next to the sink in the kitchen. I go over and take the receiver off the cradle and start cranking the handle. Kelly on the town's switchboard picks up. "Hey, how you doing, beautiful?" I said, "I got a question for you." "Sure, Jimmy. Anything for you," she replied. Now, it's no secret Kelly and I were a number once, but that's another story. I asked her, "Kelly, is there a place around here that sells farm stuff on the other side of town?" She then says, "I can connect you there, Jimmy." I tell her, "Great, beautiful." Kelly pauses for a minute, then says she knows of Hutmater's Hardware on the other side of town. She then says she can connect me. I say, "Great, beautiful." I get Hutmater's Hardware, and after a few questions, I'm told that a mug speaking French wanted to place an order for some poultry. Since no one at the hardware store spoke French, all they heard was "poulette." One of the clerks looked the word up and saw a big Rhode Island red rooster in a picture next to the word. So, the man wanted pullets. He got an order of pullets. I hung up and cranked the phone again. Kelly answered again, and I asked her if she knew anyone who knew anything about raising chickens. She was curious, as usual, and asked why. I told her about the farm full of roosters and no hens, how the roosters were taking over the farm, and things were getting out of hand. Kelly paused for a second and then asked me, "Remember being in the Navy and being out to sea for about 6 months? When you and the crew got a Liberty Pass, the ship's chaplain had a nice long talk with you mugs, remember?" Oh. I asked Kelly to connect me to Hutmater's Hardware again. I then told Kelly, "You're 1 in a million, beautiful. I owe you one." Just before Hutmater's Hardware picked up, Kelly said to me, "I'm going to hold you to that, tough guy." I put in an order for hens for Frenchie's farm, lots of hens. I went back into the living room and told Frenchie that I solved his problem. Between the smile, the hiccups, and the burps, I think he understood a word or two. I stayed in the living room with Frenchie for the rest of the day, while listening to a large radio in his living room. I heard the sound of a delivery truck outside. As I looked out the front window, overlooking the porch, Fred, the Rhode Island Red, jumped off the iron glider and headed for the truck. One of the cages containing 5 hens fell off the back of the truck and broke open. A tall, white-feathered hen strutted out and surveyed the ground. Fred stopped cold in his tracks. So did the other roosters. Fred just stared at the white-feathered hen. I've seen that look on a mug before. It's that, "Hello, Mabel, what you got cooking?" I made my way to the front porch. Frenchie's sister was all by herself, stirring away. I sat next to her on the iron glider, held her hand and told her everything was going to be fine now. I returned to the kitchen and called for a taxi. Hardy the tenor pulled up and we left. All the way back to town, we both got into a few rounds of My Girl Lucy, Who's Stuck in the Mud. We arrived back in town and I got dropped off at Angel's Bar. I gave Hardy the tenor a salva that entered Angel's. As I entered, Knuckles was just finishing up his second set. There wasn't a dry eye in the joint. I covered a bar stool and watched everyone walk by, heading for the front door. I tried to be polite and remarked to Wrinkles, "It's a shame I missed that." It looked like it was really going to get to everybody. Wrinkles glanced over to me and told me to sit tight. Knuckles just has one more set to go. Oh. Well, folks, that concludes another episode of Jimmy Ballpoint, Private Investigator, brought to you by Sudsy Wudsy, that all-purpose cleaner. Keep your radio dial on this station for next week's Jimmy Ballpoint, Private Investigator. Ear, eye, nose, the complete package.